So, I want to start with this image that has just completely stuck with me since I opened the source material for today's deep dive.
Oh, yeah. The clock metaphor.
Right, exactly. It's a metaphor, but honestly, it feels less like poetry and more like a diagnosis of where we're all at.
It's a heavy place to start, for sure.
It is. So I want you, the listener, to imagine a clock. And not the one on your wrist or the little digital one in the corner of your screen.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a clock that actually tracks the state of human consciousness.
Because we aren't talking about time zones here.
Yeah.
Or schedules.
No, we're talking about the collective headspace of the world right now.
Right.
And the source argues that if you just look around at society today, the outrage, the burnout, the constant noise, it is effectively midnight in the world.
Midnight in consciousness. It's such a powerful phrase.
Yeah.
Because it suggests we are at the darkest point of the cycle, right? A time of deep sleep, confusion, maybe even a bit of chaos.
Exactly. And usually, when we think of midnight, we just think, okay, that's the end of the day, time to rest.
But the core premise of this text, which is called the 4 a.m. consciousness, a blueprint for spiritual awakening, it's all about what happens after the clock strikes 12.
Because inevitably, time moves forward. You hit 3 a.m. and then 4 a.m.
And that 4 a.m. mark is the critical juncture. It's the dividing line in this whole blueprint.
Right.
Because in the physical world, 4 a.m. is this really strange kind of liminal space. The world splits into two very distinct groups of people at that hour.
You have the people who are just finishing their night, right? Maybe they've been partying or they're working a late shift or maybe they're just insomniacs doom scrolling until they finally pass out.
Yeah, they are actively heading into unconsciousness. They're going to sleep.
And then you have the second group, the ones who are rising.
The monks, the early achievers.
Exactly. The people who get up before the sun to center themselves. They are moving out of sleep and into awareness.
So the source uses this literal time of day to set up a massive metaphorical quantum for the reader.
And it's a question we really want to frame this whole deep dive around for you listening right now. Which group are you in?
And obviously, it's not asking about your literal alarm clock settings.
Right.
It's asking about your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Are you part of the collective that is falling deeper into sleep, into reaction and numbness?
Or are you part of the group that is waking up?
Because as we're about to unpack here, those two states of being create completely different realities, even if you're sitting in the exact same house or working in the exact same office.
So let's get into the definitions then, because I think if you stop someone on the street and asked, hey, are you awake?
They'd look at you like you're out of your mind.
Exactly. They'd say, obviously my eyes are open. I'm talking to you.
Right. But the source defines sleep in a way that is actually pretty confrontational.
Yeah, it challenges the ego right out of the gate.
It really does. In this blueprint, sleep isn't about physical rest at all. It's about emotional and intellectual passivity. Mm-hmm. It defines being spiritually asleep as living in a state of constant reaction. It's victimhood.
Which is a loaded word, victimhood.
Yeah.
How is the text using it in this specific context?
It's using it to describe a total lack of agency.
Okay.
If you walk through your day feeling like the world is constantly happening to you, you are asleep.
Like you're just getting knocked around by circumstances.
Exactly. If you find yourself constantly offended, constantly blaming others, or just constantly upset by things completely outside your control, that is the literal signature of the sleeping consciousness.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay.
If someone cuts me off in traffic and almost causes a wreck, or if my boss yells at me for something I definitely didn't do, isn't it completely natural to blame them? I mean, they did the thing.
See, that is the trap.
Yeah.
Yes. The source totally acknowledges that bad things happen to people. But it focuses on the internal narrative. Just listen to the language we typically use.
Like what?
Things like, he made me angry, or she ruined my day.
But we say that all the time. That's just standard English.
It's standard, yeah, but the text argues it is psychologically devastating.
How so?
Think about the actual mechanics of that sentence. He made me angry. You are literally admitting that someone else holds the remote control to your emotional state.
Wow.
You're saying, I am a puppet, and because he pulled this specific string, I had absolutely no choice but to feel this way.
I see.
That is what the source calls being asleep. You are totally unconscious of your own power to choose a response.
So waking up isn't about controlling the world. It's about realizing you're holding your own remote control.
Precisely. The awakened mindset shifts from the world upsets me to I choose how I respond to the world.
It's a massive shift to ownership.
Complete ownership. The mantras of the awake are things like, my thoughts are my choice. My reactions are my responsibility.
And I'm here to give, not to take. That was another one from the text.
Right. It sounds simple when we say it out loud, but in practice, that is a radical departure from how most of society operates.
It really reminds me of that idea that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our freedom.
Exactly. The sleeping person doesn't even see the space. They just react. Stimulus, response, bam, bam.
Right.
But the awakened person widens that gap. They take a beat.
To make this super concrete, the text uses a scenario that I think every single person listening has experienced. The dreaded Monday morning stress test.
I love this example. It's so mundane.
Yeah, it's not some grand spiritual retreat on a mountain. It's literally just an office.
You walk in on a Monday morning, and the vibe is just heavy.
We've all been there. Maybe there are layoffs rumored, or maybe it's just that general Monday gloom. People are complaining, the coffee machine is broken, the energy is just toxic.
And usually, the social pressure in that moment is to join in.
Right. It's almost like a weird bonding ritual. Oh man, can you believe this traffic? Can you believe this insane email?
That right there is the moment of the test. If you join in, if you match that low frequency and start complaining just to fit in, you have gone back to sleep. You've let the external environment completely dictate your internal state.
But the alternative feels so awkward. I mean, if I just stand there smiling while everyone is venting about the Bosch, I look like a psychopath.
No. You don't have to be a cheerleader.
Okay, good.
You just have to be a rock. You hold your center. You simply don't absorb the chaos. And the source makes a really fascinating claim here about what it calls the ripple effect.
Right, the idea that one person can actually change the entire room.
Think about a dark house at night. If one person wakes up at 4 a.m. and starts moving around, making coffee, turning on a light, the energy of the whole house changes.
Yeah, even the people who are still sleeping shift a little bit in their beds.
Exactly. In the office, if you refuse to engage in the toxicity, if you stay calm and solution-oriented, you act as a circuit breaker.
You stop the flow of the negativity.
You do. And the text actually goes so far as to redefine heaven in this exact context.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up. It says heaven isn't a place in the sky.
No, it says heaven is in behavior. It's a quality of interaction.
So when you bring patients to a really impatient room, you are literally manifesting a heavenly state right there in the material world.
You're bringing the light of 4 a.m. into the midnight chaos.
That sounds beautiful, but let's get real for a second. It is exhausting to be that person.
Okay, totally.
It takes a tremendous amount of energy to not react when Susan from accounting is screaming about invoices.
Right.
And the source actually addresses this with what I think is easily the best analogy in the entire deep dive, the battery.
The soul battery. This is where the rubber really meets the road in this text, because you can't have heavenly behavior if you're constantly running on fumes.
The text compares the modern human to a smartphone that is perpetually hovering at 3% battery. And man, we all know that specific panic.
We really do. But think about how a phone behaves when it's at 3%. It immediately goes into low power mode.
The screen dims.
Right. Apps start crashing. Background processes stop updating. It gets laggy and glitchy.
And we are the exact same way.
Absolutely we are.
Yeah.
When we are spiritually depleted, we enter our own version of low power mode. We lose access to our higher functions.
So we lose patience, empathy, creativity.
All of it. Resilience is gone. We become highly reactive because we literally do not have the energy required to process things properly.
We snap at our kids, we ignore our friends, we doom scroll.
Exactly. And the most convicting part of this whole analogy is how we usually try to fix it, how we try to charge ourselves.
Oh man, yeah. The text says no phone charges by staring at it.
That is the key line. When we feel totally drained, what's our default?
We flop on the couch and stare at a screen.
We watch Netflix, we scroll TikTok, we check the news for the 10th time. We're literally staring at the phone hoping it charges.
But those things aren't power sources.
Not at all. In fact, they're usually background apps that drain the battery even faster.
So if scrolling is just draining the battery further, what is the actual charger? The blueprint offers a protocol here that is, well, it's simple, but it is definitely not easy.
No, it's not. It's the 1 hour rule.
The 1 hour rule.
Yeah.
The source argues that the absolute most critical decision of your life happens in the first 60 minutes after you wake up.
And the rule is strict. You must give yourself 1 full hour before you let the world in.
So no email, no news, no social media.
None of it. And look, I can hear the listeners pushing back right now. I don't have an hour in the morning. I have to get the kids ready. I have a long commute.
Right, it sounds impossible for a busy person.
And I get that. But the principle the text is getting at isn't necessarily about the exact duration. It's about sequence.
It's about who gets access to your brain first.
Exactly. The source explains that the human mind is at its absolute most programmable right after waking up.
It's like wet cement.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Whatever lands on it first sets the shape for the entire rest of the day. If the very first thing you do is look at your phone, you are letting the world's chaos write its signature on your brain before you've even brushed your teeth.
You're essentially prioritizing other people's agendas over your own stability. Their emails, their emergencies, their outraged tweets.
And then we wonder why we feel anxious and overwhelmed by 9 a.m. We literally just drank a cocktail of cortisol for breakfast.
Which perfectly brings us to the next major concept, the diet of the mind. The source is really strict about this too. It makes a very direct comparison to physical food.
It asks a super logical question.
Yeah.
You wouldn't eat a massive box of donuts and wash it down with a soda every single morning and expect to go be an Olympic athlete, right?
Right. We understand nutritional chemistry. We know junk food makes our bodies physically weak and sick.
But for some reason, we don't apply that same basic logic to information.
We really don't. We feed our minds crime, drama, gossip, outrage, and fear at 6 a.m., and then we are genuinely surprised when our mental health takes a nosedive.
The source is incredibly blunt about this. Information is not neutral.
It is food.
Yes, it physically builds your personality.
You are what you consume. That's a direct quote. If you consume outrage, you literally become an outraged person.
If you consume anxiety, you become an anxious person.
No.
It's a direct input-output system.
So if you want peace, you have to actively consume peace. Silence, wisdom, nature, good music.
You have to treat your attention with the exact same discipline you'd use for a strict physical diet if you were training for a marathon. Because, frankly, life is a marathon.
Okay, so we've locked down the personal inputs, we're charging the battery correctly, we're watching what we eat mentally, but we don't live in a vacuum.
No, we don't.
We interact with other people constantly, and this is where the text shifts to something it calls viral negativity. It talks a lot about our responsibility as distributors of information.
This is a really crucial pivot in the blueprint. It's not just about protecting yourself anymore, it's about not poisoning the well for everyone else.
Right.
The source argues that we very often act as repeaters for negative energy.
There's a really striking line here. It says, the person who creates a negative message isn't the only problem. The thousands who forward it are.
It's the distribution network that causes the real damage.
Mm-hmm.
Think about a rumor or a terrifying news story or even just a really mean-spirited joke. If you receive that and then you turn around and share it with 10 of your friends, you are actively amplifying the noise.
You're increasing the entropy in the whole system.
Exactly.
But let me push back a little. Is it really that big of a deal? I mean, forwarding a relatable meme or just venting to a friend about the news, isn't that just a way of connecting with people?
The text asks a great question in response to that. Is it connecting or is it infecting?
Oh, wow.
The source says energy spreads faster than Wi-Fi. When you spread fear or gossip, even casually, you are lowering the vibration of every single person you touch.
You're actively contributing to that midnight state of the world we talked about at the beginning.
Right. But the awakened person, the one living in that 4 a.m. consciousness, they act as a dead end for negativity.
A dead end. I really like that framing. The buck stops here.
Exactly. You might receive the chaos. People will still come to you with their drama, but you don't pass it on.
You process it, you neutralize it, or you just let it drop entirely.
You basically refuse to be a carrier for the virus.
Now, I want to move to the final major section of the blueprint, which is arguably the most esoteric part of the whole text.
Oh yeah, the home environment.
Right. It talks about the physical environment we live in, specifically our homes, and it lists 3 very specific pillars for creating what it calls a